Welcome, Pansars and Plunderers, to 10 Symbaroum builds. This is going to be a great video, whether you have followed me for all of my other Symbaroum videos, you were here for the tier list, and you wanted to see what I can make with more custom builds, or if you've never played Symbaroum before, you don't know what Symbaroum is, but you saw somebody cool on the thumbnail, you want to check it out. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to show you how things work, and we're going to start by talking about what you need for your Symbaroum character. Now, what you need is that's right, our first build is a K-pop demon hunter, but we are taking this out of the modern urban fantasy of that movie and into our setting of Symbaroum, where I think this character actually makes total sense because in the lore of Symbaroum, monster hunting is a big deal and monster hunters can form into societies, and I think it makes total sense that we're going to have a celebrity monster hunter who happens to sing songs about their triumphs over the horrors of Davokar, notably daemons from the Yonder world and their sorcerer summoners. So we need to make a celebrity. We need to make a singer. Mira here is going to be our long weapon master. We need to throw in some hunter tactics. We're not just a fighter, we are a hunter. And Mira happens to be our kind of scary mean girl of the group, so we need that vibe going. Let's go ahead and jump from our concept into the nitty-gritty mechanics of the build. Now, just like a lot of fantasy role-playing games, whether you're used a tabletop or a video game, we're going to pick a race. The dominant race in Symbaroum happens to be human, and there's so many of them that they happen to be broken up into a few different groups. We're going to be an Ambrian human. These are the so-called more civilized humans. They have a big empire ruled by a queen, as opposed to the barbarian humans. Now, that is going to give us a boon. These are small little things on our character sheet that usually don't help in combat. Sometimes they do. So we have the privileged boon. Now, what that means is we grew up rich. We were a problem child because we got too wild, but now that's how we're getting paid. Now we're going to be a musician. That is going to give us some bonuses in talking to people, actually some interesting notes on pacifying beasts that can come up while you're wandering through the forest of Davokar. We're also going to pick up enterprise. Enterprise means that we're going to get some extra coins, some extra gold thaler from our merch. And we're going to pick up horrifying, which is going to help us on rolls to influence people by scaring the shit out of them because we are the mean girl of the group. Now, we're also going to grab a burden, and you see my little XP values out here. Let's remember that boons are costing us 5 XP each. We'll talk more about XP later. So far I've spent 15 XP on my build, but I'm going to get a bonus 5 XP back to only make it 10 XP total spent because we are taking the burden of bloodthirst. What bloodthirst means is when we see something and it challenges us, we have to kill it. And if you've seen the movie, I think that matches Mira pretty well. Even if it's a pretty boy with abs, he's going to get his in the end. Let's move on into how we're going to kill the Saja boys. But let's slow things down just a bit for the new folks in the audience, and maybe a reminder for the veterans that when you start playing Symbaroum, you are going to have 50 XP to spend on your abilities. However, I'm not here to show you guys starters. I'm here to show you guys some amazing badass characters that you can make. So we're going to start with 200 XP for everybody in this video, and we've only spent 10 so far. Now, as for the rest of that XP, how are we going to spend it? Well, Symbaroum is not a class-based game. We're not making wizards and rangers and rogues. You can make those things, but what you get to do is pick and choose what you want, sort of like a Skyrim kind of deal, rather than being assigned to a certain path and then veering off into little subclasses beyond that. So we get a lot more play. Now, when we're buying abilities, the novice level of that ability is going to be 10 XP. The adept level of that ability is going to be 20 more XP for a total of 30 spent. And the master level ability is going to be 30 more XP on top of that for a total of 60 spent. That means that if you want a master level ability, that is going to be a big investment. That's equivalent to having 10 little novice abilities, but these are some of the best abilities in the game, and we're going to see why. Let's get back to Mira and her abilities in particular. Well, we know that Mira fights with this big energy glaive thing, so we're going to go all in on that. We need Polearm Mastery at master level. That's going to be 60 XP out of the way. That's going to give us a little damage boost on our dice. That is going to mean free attacks. Whenever enemies approach us and they don't have a long weapon, we hit them. Whenever we charge at an enemy and they don't have a long enemy, we hit them. When they don't have a long weapon and they are trying to attack us, we say, no, you stay back. So that's going to be a big deal. We're going to pick up staff fighting, also at master level. That's going to give us a little defense boost. It's going to turn our offense into our greatest defense. It is going to give us a riposte attack. Whenever the demons try to come at us and we dodge them, we are going to get a free attack off. You notice that we're getting a lot of free attacks both on our turn and off of our turn. This is going to affect our action economy, where we're not just doing one swing on our turn. We're going to be reliably having usually like 3 attacks per turn plus an extra reaction attack on our off turn. So this is great. And finally, with staff fighting, we get this combo move where we can sweep the leg on somebody, bop them down on the ground. Now we have advantage for another free attack. And we're going to round this out with acrobatics. That's going to give us some mobility when we're moving around the battlefield. We can hit a few people. Maybe they're dead, maybe they're not, and our other girls are going to clean them up. We run to the next enemy. We get a free attack on them. This is a good combo, and it only costs 10 XP. But we're not done yet. We have our main fighting stance out of the way, our fighting style with the polearm, but we're a hunter. We need some extra tools in our kit. Let's see what that looks like with some more abilities. And we are actually going to make a hybrid character. We got some martial stuff going on. Now we're going to get some magical stuff. We're going to get a little mystical. You D&D people out there, like me, will recognize that this is kind of like a ranger. Rangers are half casters in that game. They do some bow stuff, maybe some 2-weapon stuff, but they also have spells. So we're going to get some spells for Mira. Now, I already said that Symbaroum is not a class-based game. However, when you get into mysticism and magical powers, they do have a few mystical traditions that certain spells called mystical powers and rituals are filed under so that we can help manage the corruption inherent in this dark magic that we are letting into ourselves so that we can cast it out back into the world. So we're going to pick up witchcraft. I think this makes sense not only thematically, but with the powers we're about to pick up. We only need it at novice level. That's going to be 10 XP. We're going to pick up a couple of mystical powers also at novice level. That is going to be Entangling Vines, which, as you can imagine, gives us a little bit of crowd control. So maybe we can get more advantage on monsters and then sweep in and kill them with our glaive. And we're going to get Larva Boil because we are, before this magic stuff anyway, a bit of a one-trick pony with our glaive. We don't want that. We want to have a ranged option. So we're going to get Larva Boil, which is also going to give us damage that breaks through armor. That's going to be a big deal. Now we're going to pick up Ritualist at Adept. That is going to give us access to 3 rituals of our choice. We want Traceless. That is going to give us the ability to cover not just ourselves, but our entire team so that we have better discreet, better stealth to set up ambushes and take down demons. We are going to pick up Familiar. This is not something in the movie. I'm adding this because I think our magpie over here, Sussy, needs a home. So we are going to take him in, and he's going to be our little scouting bird. And we're going to pick up Holy Smoke, which is an ability that doesn't cover us. What it is basically a smoke bomb in the area, and then anything that is corrupted starts glowing, so we can easily see who the shape-shifting demons are, recognize them, and then go kill them. Now, I have a little star by Holy Smoke because everything else I've picked on this list is a witchcraft power, a witchcraft ritual, but this happens to be a Theurge ritual, which means we're going to take on a point of permanent corruption. And Let's take a peek at what that looks like, as well as our base stats, our numbers. Now, we have 8 attributes in Symbaroum. If 8 seems like a lot, don't worry, because they don't really break down into separate like skill trees and everything. We just have these 8 numbers that make these other 4 numbers down here, and everything comes back to those. So we have a 14 in accurate. That is our attack stat. That's what we need to roll under to hit. By the way, this is a roll under system. Having a higher number here is better. When we roll our 20-sided die, we want to land on that number or under in order to succeed. We have 80 points to spend all in all for our 8 attributes. That means they all start with a base 10. If you raise a number up a few points, you're going to have to take that many points away somewhere else. Now, you can't raise any number beyond a 15, and you can only have one 15. So it's a little hard to min-max here. You can also only go down as far as 5. So anyway, we've got a 14 on accurate. We've got a 7 on cunning. We've got an 8 on discreet. We've got 11 persuasive. 13 for quick. That is kind of our defense stat, so we need that. Our resolute. Now, you probably quickly recognize what most of these words mean if you've played an RPG. And resolute, you can make some guesses, but that is basically our willpower stat. And that is the stat that pretty much every mystic needs for casting spells, mystical powers, and rituals in the game. So we needed a pretty good resolute, and I'm okay with a 12, but it could be better. Our strong is a 10. Now, strong isn't going to affect our damage, but it is going to, weirdly enough, affect our HP. We'll get to that in a second. And our dump stat right now is vigilant. Ideally, we would have a better vigilant stat for our hunter. However, we do have 2 party members with Zoe and Rumi, so hopefully one of them is going to have a better vigilant. Plus, we have a trick for this with Holy Smoke. We don't need our mundane senses because we have a mystical sense. Now, when we use that strong of 10, that is going to directly affect our toughness. We have 10 hit points. Yes, D&D players, you heard that right. Our high-level badass only has 10 HP. Welcome to Symbaroum. You're going to take hits, and when you take hits, they're going to hurt. That's why we needed some staff fighting and acrobatics to help us not get hit. Our pain threshold is half of our strong. That's going to be 5. If we take more damage than our pain threshold, bad things happen. So if we get hit for 4 damage, that's already a bad deal because we've jumped down from 10 HP to 6 HP. But now if we get hit for 6 on that first hit, worse things are going to happen because they broke our pain threshold. I talk about that in another video. Moving on, our corruption threshold is going to be half of our resolute. Whenever we roll for mystical powers or whenever we take an hour to sit down and cast a ritual, we roll usually a d4 of corruption. However, if you take an ability like witchcraft, you only take 1. You don't have to roll. So that's going to determine how many spells we can reliably use in a fight. We also have 1 point of permanent corruption, remember, from Holy Smoke before? So that is going to affect our character. That means our corruption threshold is essentially down by 1 at the start of every fight. We can only accrue 5 before bad things happen. Now, some more flavorful aspects of our character sheet that you already noticed. We have a goal. This is good. This is a drive for your character that helps put them into the world in an immersive way for you, other than just meet in tavern, go on quest. I love that this is a part of the system. So our goal is pretty simple. We kill demons, we get paid. Our shadow is gonna be golden with notes of black smoke to denote the corruption that we've taken on. You can kind of flavor up the shadow however you feel like. This is the aura of your character that is visible when somebody looks at you with something like holy smoke or witch sight. Tones of metal tend to be related to civilization, so I think that is appropriate for Mira. She is pretty well ingrained in civilized society. And then your more wild colors of shadow, we're getting into your reds, your greens, your whites, but I let my players kind of play around and describe their shadows however they want as an extra piece of flavor. And we are almost done with this character. Don't worry, not everyone is going to take this long. We are teaching some stuff now, and you're going to see how this all works, and then the rest of them are going to make even more sense. But we need some equipment. Let's look at that. So our main weapon is going to be a bit of a custom item. I've named this the Glaive of the Han Moon. Now, to pay for this special item that normal people wouldn't be able to have, we do have the privileged trait that is going to give us some extra thaler at first level, which we'll be carrying on. Forgive me for continuing to say levels because you don't actually have levels in Symbaroum. You get XP as you go. Your character is always just a character. Anyway, the glaive is going to have the qualities precise and massive. Precise just means +1 to attack. So you'll notice our accurate was 14. We are going to up that to 15 to be able to hit. So now we have an extra 5% chance of hitting our enemies. And our damage is going to be a D10, which we got damage boosted from Polearm Master. The massive, the M there, means that we get to roll this twice and take the better result. That's really good in a game where, again, most of the enemies you come across are going to have anywhere from 10 to 15 hit points. Occasionally, you get somebody who's huge and has 20, and we'll actually see that with our own builds later on. Let's look at our armor side of things. We want concealed armor. I think that works again for the K-pop Demon Hunter vibe that we're building upon. We want armor that is hidden under our kind of bardy clothes. Now, the quality on that is going to be flexible, which is going to affect the impeding value. The impeding value is going to reduce the effectiveness of our quickness as well as our resolute when we roll for our magic. So our defense comes from our quick. Our quick was a 13. It gets knocked down to 12 from impeding. It gets knocked back up to defense because we brought into staff fighter. Finally, our armor is going to reduce any hits that we wind up taking. The concealed armor we're wearing is going to reduce it by a D4, which doesn't seem substantial, but we need anything we can to soak up damage from hitting our 10 HP or from breaking our pain threshold. Now, I'm only focusing on the core equipment, the big weapon, the big armor that we have. Naturally, these characters would come with 5 herbal cures and a bunch of different oils and elemental essences and a mask and all kinds of stuff. I don't want to mess with that today. I respect your right to itemize the backpack on your character sheet, but for this video, I just want to focus on the core stuff, and I want to wrap up Mira and look at some more people. Now, one more thing. Now that we have this base build for Mira, you can start moving around these attributes on your own. You can swap out Polearm Master for something like Knife Play with Zoe. You can swap in some leadership abilities and longsword powers, maybe even some troll singing for Rumi. This is the freedom that you have in a system like this rather than being tied down to a class. That is going to put a wrap on Mira, and for those of you who are still not satisfied that I brought in a K-pop Demon Hunters character, you want something that ties in a little more easily to the Symbaroum world, to that true dark fantasy, I got you. Let's see what another monster hunter would look like. All right, so let's talk about Geralt of Rivia, the Butcher of Blaviken. I don't think he needs further introduction. He is an iconic dark fantasy character. Whether you know him from the video games like me, or the TV show that I watched 2 seasons of and then gave up on, or if you know him from the books. And I would actually be very curious to hear about in the comments if you are a Witcher book enjoyer and you want to tell me about how I can make a more book accurate Geralt. Let me know, because I am going to make him based on my experience from all 3 of the video games. And from that, my concept is we're going to need to make somebody that is inhuman. We need some hunter senses. We're going to make a powerful swordsman. We're going to need his 5 spells. We got Igni, Ard, Ken, Axi, and Irden. And then we also need somebody who can do a little bit of alchemy. So we have a very multifaceted character, and we're going to see what that looks like. So let's start with our foundation for Geralt. We're going to be an elf. Now, an elf is described in Symbaroum as being actually less of a race and more of a protective order in the forest, fighting off corruption for the benefit of the whole world. And I think that matches with Geralt very well. I think it also matches that he's long lived and he's a pariah. Pariah is a burden, it is a social debuff that is going to make it harder to talk with humans. They don't trust us, but it's going to make it easier to talk with other witchers and perhaps other witches. Now, our boons, we're going to have dark blood. Dark blood is where we get that mutation factor. And this ties in perfectly because we get to pick a monstrous ability. In this case, that's going to be regeneration to get our toughness back in the middle of combat. And healing in Symbaroum is actually quite hard to do, so that's a big deal. This is why it's going to cost us not only the 5 XP that it normally does for a boon, it's going to cost us 10 more XP on top of that, as if we were buying a novice level ability. Let's keep going. We are going to get Gambler for when it's time to play Gwent, which is all the time. We're going to get Bloodhound, which is going to give us a +1 bonus whenever we are tracking somebody. And we're going to get Pet so that we can have a horse named Roach. Now, our burden for 5 bonus XP is going to be Bestial, which we have to automatically take as a result of Dark Blood. This is going to be a further social debuff. Whenever we walk into town, people aren't going to want to talk to us like a normal guy. They're going to see that we're some kind of monster. And again, this works with the Witcher lore, and it works in Symbaroum. Let's go to our abilities. And the first thing you notice is that we got a lot going on here. You see it a lot of novice stuff for 10 XP. But the big thing we need is two-handed force. But Jackson, you say, Geralt doesn't use a two-handed weapon. No, not really. He uses a big sword, but in a one-handed stance. And that's just not something that we really see represented in Symbaroum. Most of the other abilities with a sword, you're holding a shield, you're holding a parrying dagger. There's not one for just I got a sword and I got a free hand. So we're taking a two-handed grip on our sword, and we're taking this to master level with 60 XP. That's going to give us a little damage boost. It's going to give us a second chance to hit whenever we miss. That's nice. And the big thing, the reason why we need this at master level is we're going to ignore the sweet, sweet armor that characters and monsters rely on to survive in this game. We are going to see the gaps and strike through, and this aligns perfectly with being an expert monster killer. We're taking Iron Fist. Now, this one allows us to swing our heavy weapons using our strength attribute instead of accurate. And we'll kind of see what that looks like later on. We've got Beast Lore, which is a nice little knowledge ability. We've got Alchemist, which is going to help us make all kinds of poisons and elixirs. We have Poisoner, which will let us safely apply the poison to our blade in combat. And finally, we have Witch Sight. That is going to be able to look around, roll for a little corruption, and see those shadows around our enemies or around normal seeming people to see where the monsters actually are, to see who's corrupted. Speaking of corruption, let's get mystical. We have 70 XP left to spend on our 200 XP budget, and we're spending all of it on novice level mystical stuff. We've got symbolism and wizardry, two different traditions, because our 5 spells that I wanted to cover kind of hit different marks as far as the traditions go. So we need those to help manage our corruption and to help unlock the abilities. We go down here, we've got Brimstone Cascade, that's our Igni. That's a nice little fire attack. We've got Mind Throw, which is a little telekinesis. We've got Protective Runes, which is going to add a nice little defense buff to us. We've got Bend Will, and we've got Blinding Symbol. Let's go ahead and check out our stats. Now, you're going to notice that I have given us a Symbaroum elfy name, Geralte, the Witcher. Now, our accurate is 5. We don't need it. We don't need accurate because we have Iron Fist, which is going to let us use our strong to swing our sword. This is good because remember, our strong is also for our toughness, our hit points. So it lets us double down on one stat while dumping our accurate. Now, that does mean if we're using anything other than a big sword, if we want to pull out our small crossbow and do something, we're going to be so bad at it. But I was always bad when I pulled out a crossbow in the game, so we're sticking with the sword. Our cunning is a 10, our discreet is an 8, our persuasive is a 6, our quick is an 11, our resolute is a 14 because this version of Geralt is going to use a good amount of spells. 14 on strong, and we need a pretty high vigilance, so we're going to stick with 12 on that. Our toughness is 14, our pain threshold is pretty high at a 7, our corruption threshold is equally high at a 7, and thanks to our investment in those mystical traditions and being careful with our mystical powers, we have 0 permanent corruption at the moment. Our goal is to protect the people from the horrors they do not know, and our shadow is silver white, rippling like tall grass. We go to our equipment to round things out, and once again, I am giving our guy a slightly special weapon. Our bastard sword, our silver sword, is actually going to have a bane effect on it. It is going to be an abomination bane. So when we're striking against that kind of creature, we're going to add a d4. That is reflected down here in the damage, which, as you'll see, is 1d12 plus 1d4, ignoring armor. And most of the time, at least when we're fighting a big boss, we're going to want to use some poison on that as well, which is going to add additional damage breaking armor 1d4 for 1d4 rounds. Nice. Our armor, I did wind up going with a medium armor. You could take it lighter to really reduce that impeding value, but for right now, we've got lacquered silk, which is flexible. Our defense is down to 9, not the best, but our damage reduction is going to be a d6, and we do have those protective runes that can help us out in a pinch. And let's talk about Geralt and where he's standing right now. Because our overall Geralt build is nice. It's respectable. It puts out good damage. It accomplished all of my goals, but he's stretched so thin, he's kind of a jack of all trades, but thankfully still a master of the sword. Now, if you wanted to, with this build, what you can do is kind of say, you know what, I'm ditching 2 or 3 of the spells. That will give me some extra points where I can go into adept on some of them, or I'm ditching the spells entirely. I want to go with more of a bear build for Geralt. We're going to invest in some man-at-arms to really get that armor up there and dump our resolute because we don't need it for spells anymore. So you can do a lot with this build by tweaking it, but for what we have with a base, I think it's pretty good. Let's move on with something that's going to be, I think, a lot simpler, because some of y'all might be looking at these 2 hybrid characters with martial and mystical abilities and be like, oh my god, this is a bit much. 200 XP can be a lot. But let me show you how simple and effective we can be with an absolute himbo. Somebody once told me the world is gonna... Okay, look, we're not doing anything fancy. We're not doing anything magical. We're just making a big fucking dumb dude who's gonna hit really hard. Let's go. Race, Ogre. Status, long lived. Pariah, +5 bonus XP. That's gonna grant us a boon. We're gonna go with Pack Mule. We carry stuff good. Let's keep going. Abilities, it's just 1 page. Let's go. Ogre lets us unlock Robust. We're going to take that to master level for 60 XP. We're going to hit harder. We're going to take less damage. We're going to be a bigger target. Our defense is going to be low, but that's fine. We can deal with it. How are we going to deal with it? Berserker. Master level, 60 XP. We get another damage buff. Just wait till you see this. We're going to get another damage reduction buff, and there's no penalty for it at master level. We're going to take Two-Handed Force to master. We already saw how good that was with Geralt. Now we're going to use it on this big dude. We're going to take Iron Fist at novice level for the same reason. And because we happen to have a handful of warrior archetype abilities, we can actually unlock a special ability called Feat of Strength, which we will take at novice level, and let's see what that does for us. Here is Himbo the Ogre. Yes, his name is Himbo. He was walking around some Ambrian town, Thistlehold or Ingdaros, and some Ambrian was like, "Oh my god, you're a big fucking Himbo, aren't you?" And he said, "Hey, Himbo, I like that name. That's me now." And that's his name. I have min-maxed the hell out of these stats. We got 6 accurate, 6 cunning, 5 discreet. Who needs it? Persuasive, 14. Why not? We're a big old charmer of an ogre. Quick, 14. Sure, we're good at fighting. Quick is good for fighting. Resolute, 6. Magic, never heard of it. Strong, 15. Let's go. Vigilant, not too shabby. 12. Toughness is 20. Yes, we get 15 from strong. Now we get 5 more from feat of strength. Very rare to have this. Pain threshold 8. Corruption threshold is 3. Oh, we're gonna be so screwed if we run across some corrupted earth. But hey, that's the system. You can't be good at everything. There's always going to be some kind of drawback. Our goal is go where I like, smash what I don't like. Our shadow is bright cherry red. For our armor, we are wearing wolf skin. It has the quality cumbersome, which is actually negative. But Himbo doesn't care. He just thinks wolves are cool, so he's gonna wear the wolf skin. Our defense is an 8. Our impeding value is -3, but we don't care because our damage reduction is 2d4 plus 1d8 while we are berserking. Good luck hurting Himbo. Our weapon is the humble double axe, which does have the deep impact quality, which will give us an extra point of damage. Because, if you'll notice, our damage is a d12 plus a d8 plus a d6 plus 1 for good measure. And that's it. We just made the most brain dead 200 XP build we could, but it's really good. It's possibly better than Mira and Geralt, and that's okay. It's fine to sit down and meticulously plan out a 5-course fine dining experience, but sometimes you want a cheeseburger, and what we just made, damn, that's a tasty burger. Now, so far, I've made 3 builds that are primarily warriors, mostly martial with some magic. Now I want to make a total mystic, and we're going to use the tradition of symbolism with symbol magic. And for that, we're going to use one of the only examples of a magic system that uses lots of symbols with Full Metal Alchemist. I'm going with Mr. Roy Mustang. We're going to get some AoE damage. We want a little fireball going on. We want some crowd control as well. And for our character himself, we have a dark past, but hoping for a bright future. Let's see what this looks like. Our race is going to be Ambrian. Specifically, we are going to belong to the Ordo Magica, which is a nice little corollary, I think, to the state alchemists we see in Full Metal Alchemist. Now, our boons, we're going to get contacts for free from being an Ambrian. This makes sense. Colonel Mustang is well connected, and we're going to have the boon of a servant. With respect to Riza Hawkeye, who could be a party member, a character in her own right, we are actually going to take a darker route and just say that she is our servant, because I'll remind you, she has the forbidden secrets of our order branded on her back. Don't let the bright colors and the guns of Full Metal Alchemist fool you. It is actually quite a dark fantasy in its own right. Now, our burden is going to be nightmares, because Roy Mustang would fit in well. His backstory with the Ishval War also tracks with the timeline of the Ambrians moving in, pushing out the barbarians, destroying Clan Jazora. I'm going to say that our Roy was part of that, and it haunts him, and that is why he is going to usurp the Führer King, I mean Queen Corinthia, and take the throne. All right, let's talk about our one page of abilities. We want Symbolism taken to master level for 60 XP. Symbolism is a very interesting tradition of mysticism that says that we basically trade away the permanent corruption you would normally get from learning spells to take the time to draw out these glyphs. It's a tradition that takes a lot of planning, both in game and out of game as a player. But when we take it to master level says we can pop these off instantly. So that's what we want. We're going to take 3 different glyphs: Draining Glyph, Banishing Seal, and Blinding Glyph. Now, Banishing Seal and Blinding Glyph, that's for some simple crowd control and utility. Our main bread and butter spell is going to be Draining Glyph. That means that we are going to cause AoE damage that pierces through armor and has a healing effect for ourselves and our allies, giving us that supportive leadership quality for our kernel. Now, some of y'all may be wondering why I didn't go for the pyromancer profession through the wizard tradition, and that is because, my friend, flavor is free. I am simply going to describe my draining glyph as being fiery. Now, we are going to pick up Strong Gift, which is the special unlockable archetype ability for mystics. That is going to reduce our temporary corruption when we're casting our spells actively. That is going to vastly increase our corruption threshold so we can cast lots of spells in a single combat scene. And it is going to give us access to any mystical power that we want in the middle of combat, albeit for an increased 1d6 temporary corruption cost. So let's look at our stats. We've got 5 accurate. We're not really going to be using mundane weapons. We're going to be relying on our draining glyph to get stuff done. And that tracks with Roy in the show because he really needs all his soldiers to protect him. We're 13 on cunning. That's really good. Our discreet is 7. We're a fire guy. We're not subtle. Our persuasive is a 12. We are a leader. We don't speak a lot, but when we do, it matters. Our quick is 11. Our resolute, we need to be 15, as high as we can get it. Our strong is an 8. Our vigilant is a 9. Our toughness is a 10. So even if your strong is less than a 10, your max toughness is minimum 10. So everybody has 10, even if your strong is like a 5. However, that 8 is still going to hurt us in the pain threshold department. With 4, it's going to be real easy for somebody to land a big hit on us. We're kind of squishy. Our corruption threshold, thanks to Strong Gift, is a 15. So we can cast a lot of spells, even if we're using the any spell ability on max Strong Gift, rolling for 1d6 temporary corruption. Our goal is to burn the rulers and take the throne. Our shadow is molten bronze. Now, as you can imagine, with a magical character, our equipment is not going to be so great. There is some really nice, like, magical equipment, and you can customize your own staff in the Advanced Player's Guide, but that's a lot of effort, and for now I want to focus on core equipment. And again, in Full Metal Alchemist, like Roy, he's carrying a basic sword or a pistol. He has his basic army uniform. So that's what we have going on here. As you can see, he's going to be very bad at melee combat. He's going to be very squishy. And that is why we're going to rely on our party to protect the front line while we're on the back line, damaging all of our enemies multiple times in a combat scene and healing our allies. Don't be fooled. This guy is very good at what he's doing, and I'm satisfied with Roy, and we're going to move on. Now, in order to talk about this build, I have to introduce you to an ability that was tucked away in the monster codex. So even if you've seen all my other Symbaroum videos, you might not have noticed this ability, and I really want to make a dude with it. So I'm just going to read this ability right now. Novice level, active, attack with a whip in one hand and a one-handed weapon in the other. If the whip attack hits, the character gets a free attack with the one-handed weapon, regardless of whether or not the whip deals damage. Nice already. Adept, active, as novice, but the whip hinders the enemy's movement so that the free attack hits automatically. Love that. Master, active, as adept, but the whip fighter pulls the enemy towards themselves so that the free attack also deals 1d6 damage. Not too shabby. We're not exactly breaking through armor, which is a big deal for some master level abilities, but I still like this one. I think it's like a low A tier. It's respectable. So I want to make somebody who has master level in this ability. I want to make a whip fighter. Now, when I think about some cultural references for people who fight with whips, I think of Indiana Jones. Okay, we have a classic treasure hunter. Can I get a little more spicy with it? Okay, Trevor Belmont, Castlevania. Yeah, all right. We can do something with that, but I've already done some monster hunters. So let's break away from that. I want a little more spice. Okay. Oh, Ivy from Soul Calibur? Now we're talking. All right, but I think, y'all, I think I can get even spicier.
I will do all the single ladies. All the whippy ladies, all the whippy ladies, all the whippy ladies, all the whippy ladies. If you like to then you should have put a whip on it. If you like to then you should have put a whip on it.
Ah, yes. Perfection. Y'all, this is my choice for our whip fighter, none other than Jacques the Whipper. We will be moving him into Symbaroum, where I think you'll find he actually fits very well, because don't you know it, the Ambrians are said in lore to have gladiator fighting pits, and that's where this guy is going to play in. Not a singer, but an entertainer, although we actually are going to do a little bit of singing. Yeah, I managed to get 2 bards in the Symbaroum video. Let's go. We need to whip it. We need to whip it good. We're going to be a gladiator. We're going to utilize the persuasive stat in a fun way. And all around, I just want this build to be fun. Okay? Sometimes you have different goals with your builds. You want to make somebody who's strong and powerful and dark and brooding or super mystical. This guy is going to be pure fun. Let's see what that looks like.
Let's get down to business so we can whip some.
Okay, now our race, we're a human, but we're actually going to go barbarian this time. Now, this is clearly a barbarian that is trying to endear himself to Upper Ambrian society, and we'll see how well that works for him. He's going to have contacts, other barbarian showmen and circus performers and pit fighters. We're going all in on storyteller. You can get this up to 3 times. That is going to mean 15 XP spent, but that means we have a +3 bonus when we are entertaining a crowd, which Jacques the Whipper is very good at. We are also a bit of a singer, so we're going to take musician for 5 XP, and I'm actually going to grab dexterous, which is specifically giving us a +1 bonus to steal things. Maybe he's just a bit of a thief on the side when he needs to be. Now, our burden is going to be arch enemy for 5 bonus XP.
He's not here anymore. No!
Oh god, I'm actually super proud of how this turned out. All right, check it out. We got master level whip fighter. We already saw what that does. Now, whips have the ensnare quality, which does kind of the things you think it would do, and the ensnare ability just makes us double good at making those ensnares happen. That's going to give us advantage on hitting our opponent later, and at master level, because we are taking master level, it gives us a choking attack with our whip as we strike our opponent on the neck, giving us a 1d6 damage per round, ignoring armor. Nice. We are also taking backstab at adept, which is going to let us deal additional damage when we strike a target at advantage, and at adept level, it's going to add a bleeding attack on top of it. This is so good. We are taking dominate, At Novice, what that means is specifically when we are attacking with melee weapons, which is going to get both our main hand and our offhand, we are not using accurate, we are using persuasive. We have a very showy, gladiatorial fighting style that I think is going to fit very well. We are also going to tack on Witch Hammer, which is a mystical power which we are taking without a tradition ability. Now, this is important because Jacques the Whipper is being very irresponsible when he's lighting his whips on fire for a little extra show and a little extra damage. He will be taking on a point of permanent corruption for learning this ability, and he won't be mitigating the temporary corruption he takes on by casting it. Finally, we're taking Exceptional Attribute at Novice. Now, this is an ability that a lot of these builds could potentially use because any of them, bumping up their highest attribute is a good thing. We're going to bump up Jacques specifically because we are using Persuasive both for our attacks, which we need, and all of our out of combat stuff is going to rely on our persuasiveness to achieve our goal. And our goal is going to be to one day perform for Queen Corinthia herself as a lowly barbarian whipper. Not to slay her, nor even to woo her, just for the honor of being in her presence, and perhaps making her smile underneath that mask. Our shadow is glittering gold with royal purple florets. Our accurate is 5. We're dumping that again. Our cunning is 12. Our discreet is 10. Our persuasive is a nice 16. Quick is 13. We're pretty good on our feet. We're going to need that in defense. Our resolute is 10. Again, we're not being very responsible with our magic. Our strong is 8, and our vigilant is 7. Our toughness is a lowly 10. Our pain threshold is an easy to beat 4. Our corruption threshold is 5, which looks respectable, but with that permanent corruption, remember, we're only 4 points away from something bad happening. So when we roll our d4 for casting Witch Hammer, there's a 25% chance that something very, very bad can happen.
I see a little silhouette of my stash. Scaramouche, Scaramouche, yes, I drew this thing on now. Thunderbolt and lightning, Jacques the Whipper's frightening me.
Now, our equipment, we obviously need a long whip that's going to be jointed and ensnaring. Our offhand is going to be an estoc. I've heard that's French. That's going to have deep impact. We're using persuasive to hit. That means we have to hit at or under a 16. Our damage is just going to be a d6 for the whip, but remember, we don't actually have to deal damage for that. The whip is there so that we can set up for a crazy bleeding backstab with the estoc for 1d8 plus 1 plus 2d4 plus 1d4 of bleed. And if we don't like that, we can always strangle them for 1d6 with the whip and then do that. So Jacques the Whipper, despite being a lover and not a fighter, in the world of Symbaroum, you got to do what you got to do, and he is going to be a killer. Good lord. Now, we're wearing a lacquered silk cuirass. It is flexible. Defense is an 11 with an impeding value of -2, and we will be reducing hits coming our way at 1d6. And yeah, I really like this build. Like, it's super fun. It has some out of combat application, and he's actually not bad at being effective. Although he is squishy, he'll need some kind of tank, perhaps even a bodyguard around. But it just goes to show, you can have a really good time when you focus on fun and just finding happiness in your game. Or, as a Frenchman would say, I want you to fuck us and have happiness. And with that out of the way, let's get a bit more serious with our fallen angel. This is a tried and true dark fantasy staple. I'm talking about an edgelord with a big-ass sword, and we have a special ability for the occasion. Let's check out Two-Handed Finesse, also from the Monster Codex. Novice, passive. In the hands of a novice, two-handed swords gain the quality long and can therefore be used with the Polearm Mastery ability. Cool. Adept. Reaction. After one successful defense per turn, pass a strong versus strong test to push enemies out of melee combat with the sword. The enemy takes 1d6 damage, is pushed back a couple of meters, and must once again face the quality of long. So we have an ability that was made for synergy here, and it's because of what we did with Mira. I think you can already start seeing how this is going to work. Master. Active, get this, the Master's flowing strikes count as a chain of attacks against enemies within melee distance. If an enemy is hit, an attack is made against the next one, and so on until an attack fails. Beautiful. We have a whirlwind strike with a big sword and a finesse type ability. So let's see what we got for this guy. We are going to build the one-winged angel, Sephiroth. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Sephiroth! All right, cool. So this is a corrupted hero in our corrupted world, which happens to tie in nicely the themes of Symbaroum, the setting, and the themes of Final Fantasy VII of saving the purity of nature and standing against pollution or corruption and standing against corrupt empires as well. So we're going to be all sword all day. We need to be an immortal soldier. We want good offense and good defense, but we're mostly all about this sword. Let's see what we can do with that. Now, we're going with Changeling for our race, not for the shapeshift ability. We're actually not going to take that, but just for the thematic relevance of seeming to be an above average human and then slowly coming to the realization on our own that we are something else entirely, something that we may consider monstrous, and that is going to drive us, some would say, to insanity, to dark ends. Now, for our boon, we're once again going with Dark Blood like we did with Geralt. That's going to give us Bestial as a burden. People will be afraid of us. We're not going with Regeneration, though. We're going with Wings. One wing in particular, but it's going to work out the same, so that's certainly going to add something to our fighting ability. Let's see what our abilities are going to be. We'll start with our sword. We already took a look at two-handed finesse. We're taking that at master. Excellent. That allows us to take polearm mastery, which we will be taking, but only up to adept. That means we're getting the maximum offensive effect without the extra defense reaction that the master level of polearm mastery offers. We're taking Iron Fist so that we can use strength instead of accurate. We're taking Feat of Strength because we qualify for it, and 5 extra toughness is nice. And we are going to take a point of corruption for Revenant Strike. This is like the evil version, the sorcery version of Witch Hammer, a simple 1d4 damage boost on top of what we'll be dealing with our sword, but we're not done yet. Now, you could easily use our remaining XP to just get Master, Two-Handed Force, and cut through armor and call it a day. But I wanted to do something a little weirder, a little more interesting, because I saw an opportunity to become a Wrathguard. This is a prestige class. You have to follow specific criteria to get into. So what I did is I grabbed Recovery, which is a self-heal. I grabbed Man-at-Arms, which is an armored defense ability, and that lines us up to take Blood Combat, the gift of the Wrathguard. We're going to take that at Adept, which means when we're bloodied, or in other words, when we fall to below half toughness, we now have a second chance to succeed at attacks, and we deal an additional 1d8 of damage. And the reason I went for this is because it recreates that anime classic boss fight feel of, oh, you think you beat me? No! We've only just begun. This isn't my final form. Now, stats and stuff. Say it with me. Accurate 5. And we've got Cunning 13, Discreet 6, Persuasive 9, Quick 14. We're keeping that high for our defense, which remember is not going to get cut down by the impeding value of our armor because we took Adept Man-at-Arms. Our Resolute is 11. That could be higher, but that's okay. I wanted to create a character that is close to the edge of corruption. Our strong is 15 and our vigilant is 7. Our toughness is 20. Pain threshold is up there at an 8. Corruption threshold is 6. Not so bad, but we have 2 permanent corruption. 1 from Revenant Strike, and the second one from our sword itself, which I'll get around to. Our goal is I will be the agent of corruption against this world that wronged me. Perfectly edgy, right? Shadow, faded silver, scorched along the edges. Now, our sword actually has a name, the Masamune, so I'm going to say that this is an artifact, and typically an artifact costs either 1 XP or 1 corruption to bind. This is like a tuning in D&D, but with a different cost. So we're going to do that. Now, this thing is modeled after the Executioner's sword. It's going to be precise, it's going to be massive, but I'm taking away the unwieldy quality, and I'm adding the desecrated quality to deal an extra d4 to uncorrupted beings. Our attribute to hit is strong, our target number to hit is 15, our damage is 1d10 plus 1d4, but remember, if we fire up Revenant Strike, that's an extra d4, and if you cut us down to half HP, now I deal an extra 1d8. Watch out for your Flower Girl healing witches. Our armor, could have gone for Wrath armor because we have a Wrath Guard. However, this is not a barbarian guardian. This is an elite Pansar of the Queen who is now turning evil, turning to the side of deep Davokar and corruption. So we want field armor of the Pansars. It's flexible and reinforced. That helps our impeding value, and it gives a +1, so we're at 1d8 plus 1 on protection. Our defense is a 14. We get maximum quick on that. However, our impeding value, even though it doesn't affect our quick, is still going to affect our rolls for resolute, so keep that in mind with Man-at-Arms. Now, I do like this Sephiroth build a lot, and it's especially fun to lean into the dark fantasy setting by making a character that can be evil, that can be truly drawn to darkness and have the power and the freedom to do incredible things within the setting for not so good reasons. However, I will say, more than anybody on this list, and they are all incredible beings who can pull off incredible tricks and have attributes that are really high, Sephiroth is like a demigod. He could have more XP. You could really buff this guy up, amp up some abilities, add on some more sorcery, and truly make him into a monster of a character. But for now, with 200 XP in our budget, I'm pretty happy with what we got. Let's move on to, oh boy, y'all get ready. Okay, making a bad guy was fun, but I'm making a bit of a silliness sandwich, and we can't do silliness much better than the April Fool's Day duck race that is a part of the Symbaroum game. Now, you can exclude this option from your game, and so far I haven't offered it officially to players, but I'm curious what an actual duck character would look like. And when I look around for duck character inspiration, there's Daffy and Donald. They're classic, they're iconic. Can I make the jump into Symbaroum though? I don't know. I want to keep looking. Okay, we got Scrooge McDuck, Howard the Duck. We're getting a little more adventurous. I can see more going on here, but DuckTales is a big thing. Let me look up some more DuckTales characters, and oh my god, who is this? Okay, now, I've never seen DuckTales, the new one anyway, and I don't remember anything from the old one as a kid, but apparently this character's name is Magica Dispel. She's already a black magic sorceress in DuckTales, so she's gonna fit right in with Symbaroum. Amazing. Now, I asked a friend who does watch DuckTales what her whole deal was, and I think I have some good stuff to go on to make a villainous duck villainess. Let's go. Okay, so Magica, our duck, is the race of Andric. That is going to give us the pariah burden, so there's 5 XP we have to play with. Now, the traits or the boons it gives us is Diminutive, which is a basic dodge ability that causes enemies to want to hit other creatures around because they can't really see us. We have no aggro pull, basically. However, as soon as we perform any ability or power, we get the aggro back. So we're not going to use this much because we want Magicka to do stuff. They get the trait Pause, which I can't find information on anywhere. So it's either somewhere obvious and my true sight is failing me, which is likely, or it's just part of the April Fool's Day joke. So either one could work. Now, with our 5 XP, we're going to take Shadow Spawn, which is a +1 buff to stealth checks. Let's get into the abilities. Okay, when we get to the actual build direction of Magicka, I want to make a control-focused character. So we start with Provocative. This is unique to Andrix, kind of like Robust is unique to Ogres, well, and Trolls. But Provocative, we're going to take it Master. Essentially, it gives us the ability to annoy our whole field of enemies so badly that they are twice as easy to hit and they are twice as bad at hitting us. We're going to take Sorcery for our mystical tradition. We're just going to take one mystical power, but we're going to take it at master level for 60 XP. And what this is going to do, our Black Bolt, this is our Force Lightning kind of deal. We're going to deal 1d6 damage, ignoring armor. We're going to deal it in a chain. It's going to stun people as well. And when we buy it at master level, at adept level, once one person breaks free, like everybody's free, but at master level, they each have to break free alone. So it's very likely that we're going to wipe most of the enemy squad with Black Bolt, and the ones that do make it through, we're just gonna quack at while our minions fight them. Now, we have Ritualist at Adept, which means we can pick 3 sorcery rituals without taking on permanent corruption. We're gonna take Enslave, which just, is bad, is evil. We're going to take Phylactery, so that we can't ducking die, and we're going to take Fleshcraft, which you should look into sometime because it just lets us take our enslaved creatures and start molding them into whatever monstrosities we want them to be, because duck you, that's why. Now, also for Magicka, we're going to go with the classic Evil Witch's Cauldron. Ignore that witch is a different thing in Symbaroum. A sorcerer's cauldron, sure. So we need alchemy at adept level. We can make better concoctions and poisons and elixirs. We're going to take poisoner at novice level so we can utilize some of the poisons that we make. And I'm actually going to spend 30 XP for feint so that we can swap in discreet for our melee attacks. And when we hit with melee attacks, it's going to be at advantage. And we're going to take it at a depth so that we swap in our discreet for our defense as well. And when you can create a master stat like this using ability swaps and really change around the attribute system, it allows you to dump more stats and pile more onto the ones you really want. So let's look at those attributes. All right, boy, howdy, there sure are a lot of inaccurate people in Symbaroum. Accurate 5, cunning 12, discreet 14, persuasive 14, quick is 6 because we don't need it, resolute is 15, we definitely need that one as a sorcerer, strong is 6, this is the squishiest character, but hey, that's why we have a phylactery. I don't care if we die. We'll get back up again. And our vigilant is 8. Toughness 10. Pain threshold 3. Corruption threshold is 8. Permanent corruption is at 3 from Black Bolt because sorcery, at least in my reading, doesn't help fight the permanent corruption gained by mystical powers, only the rituals. Our goal is to reforge the lost empire of Symbaroum and rule as the queen. Our shadow is bitter black flames tinged with a deep emerald green. And once again, we're a mystic without very impressive equipment. We want an assassin's blade that's going to be concealed. We'll carry a staff, but when it's time to hit somebody, we're going to surprise them with this. We have a really good chance to hit with a 14, and it's a d6 of damage, but remember that we'll be adding on some poison. Our armor is a Scald's Cuirass. It's going to be flexible and reinforced. Sure, why not? Defense 13, impeding -1, which does affect our resolute. You could actually ditch the armor completely if you wanted max resolute. But with the Scald's Cuirass, we do have a nice armor of 1d4 plus 1, which will help us avoid breaking our pain threshold of 3. Oh my god, Magica is so fun. However, she might be too out there, both evil and silly. She might be too out there for me to play as a player character, but I'm absolutely gonna use her as a villain against my players sometimes. You guys better duck and watch out. In the 50 classes tier list, towards the end, I teased building John Wick as an assassin. I wound up going with Darth Vader instead, and I kind of want to apologize, not for making Darth Vader, but for not also making John Wick. So, here's my apology. Let's go, let's make John Wick, and see what that'll do. We need a tragic backstory. We are an assassin without a cause. We're going to focus our attacks on ranged combat with a small concealed weapon, a fancy crossbow maybe. However, we also need to lay down the hurt in hand to hand combat. Our race is going to be barbarian. Jan might be living in Ambrian society now on the down low, but he comes from a wild world. And we will be getting into that not only with our contacts, but with the hideouts boon. This is how we gain access to the Continental, and we will be able to talk their secret code with Double Tongue. Finally, we're going to take the boon Tough for 5 XP because we never seem to die. Now, our burden is an interesting one. We're going to pick up Protege, which is going to be a puppy left to us by our dead wife. And then that puppy is going to get killed, which is actually a rule in Symbaroum. When your protege dies, it gets replaced by another burden, which is wanted, which tracks completely with the plot of John Wick. And oh my god, I love when mechanics and story work together perfectly. Our abilities are not too complicated. We want Marksman. That's pretty obvious for a ranged character. We'll take it to Master for 60 XP. It's going to give us a damage boost. It's going to give us a pin attack that we're not actually going to use. It's going to let us ignore armor, though, and that's important. We want Rapid Fire to Master. There's some details here, but basically, we're going to get 3 attacks in a round. We're going to take 6th Sense at Adept because that's going to allow us to not only swap in Vigilant for accurate, accurate. That is going to mean we get that on attack with our ranged weapons, and we get to use it for our defense. We're going to take Man at Arms to further amplify our defense while we look damn good in an armored suit. And finally, we are going to take the Wrestling ability for those hand-to-hand moves so that we can pin down an opponent and go for some armor-breaking damage. Okay, Accurate 5, Cunning 12, Discreet 14, Persuasive 6, we're not a talker. Quick 6, John Wick is quick, but we don't need it for this build. Resolute is 8. This guy doesn't deal with magic. Strong is 14. We still need that for wrestling, and we still need that for our toughness. And our vigilant is our big stat. That's going to be our 15, toughness 14. Pain threshold is a 7. Corruption threshold is a 4. Watch out, but we at least don't have any permanent corruption. Now, our goal, we don't have one. At some point, it was avenging our dog, but now that we're wanted, we don't know what we're doing. We're hopping from hideout to hideout. We're making enemies every step along the way. We keep screwing up our pacts, and I love this because it shows the danger of a character without a goal. The danger to themselves. I mean, he's also a danger to everyone else around him, but it does come back to bite him in a lot of ways. Now, our shadow is going to be burgundy velvet, flaring blood red at the fringes. Our weapon is going to be a special masterwork, small repeating crossbow, which is also precise. And look, is this a stretch? Yes, but with Jan's backstory as an assassin, which would be highly paid in Symbaroum, I think this is fine. I think he gets this. We're trying to hit a 16 through our vigilant, and our damage is a d8, but we get it 3 times, and it ignores armor. That's pretty stellar. Our armor is also a masterwork, specially concealed, double chainmail, flexible, and reinforced. Defense is 15. We're not affected there. We will need impeding if for whatever reason we have to roll a resolute, but our damage reduction is going to be 1d8 plus 1. And there we have another pretty effective but fairly straightforward build. Now, you could go other directions with John Wick. You could bring in some sorcery or some wizardry, some unnoticeable if you want. You could play up the bounty hunter, assassin aspect with some other ranger abilities, some bloodhound in there. But I like what we made with our ranged assassin, and we have 2 more characters to go. Yep, we're making Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road. Also Furiosa the movie, but Charlize Theron is the real one for me. And yeah, you may have assumed if you saw the driver that I was going to build that Ryan Gosling guy, but I got other plans for him. Anyway, yeah, we need to make Furiosa. Now, I knew I wanted to make somebody that could drive. I've done a lot of like stagecoach chases and chariot fights and all kinds of things like this in D&D, so I wanted to do something like that in Symbaroum. The problem that I came across was that there's no driving boon, there's no driving ability, there's no vehicle stuff really. You can come close with like equestrian, but I need a war rig. I need something big. And then it hit me. We're not driving a wagon. We're not riding a horse. We're a witch riding a koloss. So our backstory for Symbaroum Furiosa, and I'm keeping the name Furiosa, is that she is a Viraco clan barbarian witch on the desert plains, and one day she is caught up in some infighting between Sarkhan clan warlords. She winds up getting conscripted. She winds up becoming an imperator, and now she is going to fight back against the Sarkhan clan chief, Immortan Yo, we'll call him, and she is going to take away his harem of wives and find the green place. Our boons, we get bushcraft for free as a barbarian. We're going to pick up beast speech so we can talk with animals in our koloss. We're going to take cartographer so that we can map out the land and know where to find the green place. And finally, we're going to take Pathfinder to be able to traverse this desert wasteland. And this is where things get interesting because I wound up making a mystic. I thought I was going to make another ranged warrior or hunter, kind of like John Wick, but I said no. I think we can do this different. We're going to take adept Witchcraft for 30 XP, we're going to focus on Storm Arrow at Adept. This is going to give us free attacks with arrows that we summon forth from our quiver. They float around our head and then they shoot out and they automatically hit, kind of like a D&D magic missile, and they do some damage. Lay on Hands, we're going to pick up also at Adept level. This is important because not only is it going to help ourselves and our party, but we're going to be able to heal the Koloss we are riding. We're going to get Curse. I think this is thematically appropriate for the warlord that captured us. We're taking it at master level to further add on to the theme of like revenge, because we're taking on a point of corruption for going one over the adept witchcraft that we have, and Curse is also quite strong. So when it's time to take down the boss, we can also do some work. We're picking up Ritualist at adept level. Quick Growth is not like a powerful ritual, but I find it compelling thematically. We're taking Summoning so that we can, summon creatures like our Koloss, or like smaller horses and wolves and things that can be the motorcycle gangs and whatnot that we find. And then my favorite, we're grabbing Burdened by Fate. Burdened by Fate is a ritual where you sit down with another player character or with an NPC and you give them a sacred task that they are bound to, and it gives them bonuses. And this is so appropriate because in the movie, not only is Furiosa kind of the primary protagonist, the drive of the story, Mad Max is there and he helps out, but she's the one who basically gives him his quest and his meaning. She does the same thing for the wives. She does the same thing for the Vuvolini to get them in on the fight. So this is perfect. When we get to our attributes, you got that right. It's an accurate that's not a 5. Cunning, 8. Discreet, 9. Persuasive, 5. Now that one might seem odd because we are Charlize Theron, and like I said, Furiosa is kind of the quest giver, but we're going to rely on Burdened by Fate to do that. We're not actually that like charismatic. Our quick is a 12. Our resolute is 15 because we're a mystic. Our strong is a nice, respectable 12. And our vigilant is an 8. So our toughness is 12. Our pain threshold is a 6. Corruption threshold is up there with an 8, but we do have that 1 point of permanent corruption. So even though we have some extra options on what we can do for our mystical powers, we are going to have to kind of pick and choose which ones we use at which times. Our goal is simple: find the green place. It gets more complicated the further we go along, but for right now, we just want to find the green place and escape in Morton Yo. Our shadow is hopeful spring green, striped with oil black and shiny chrome. When we get to our core gear, we're carrying a crossbow, we're carrying a stiletto. The stiletto has deep impact, we're attacking with accurate, and our target number is an 11. That's not great, but it is a 55% chance to hit. There's a lot of missed shots in Mad Max, so it makes some sense there. Our damage is going to be a d6 plus 1. Our armor is a witch gown, which makes sense. However, again, with a mystic, if you want to completely ditch armor to have no impeding value on your resolute, I can completely see the argument for that. I like giving my characters clothes and that extra layer of armor. That D4 makes me feel so much safer. And that's Furiosa. My final build, I thought was going to be my favorite, but at this point, they're all my favorites. I'm just having fun, and I hope you are too. So let's get to number 10 and the final ranking. Steve Rogers, Captain America. In our case, Stevus Royagai, Captain Ambria, is going to be a paragon of this society following the path of the Templar. And I find this character compelling, not just because his build is about to get pretty busted, but because of the lore behind Ambria as a nation. Ambria is a dominant superpower, which is escaping from ruin, but in doing so, creates ruin in its wake, particularly among the barbarians who they continue to push back deeper into danger while taking their land and their heritage and declaring cultural beings like goblins and ogres pariahs within their so-called civilized society. Our character would try to stand for what the glory of the kingdom was in the stories he believed in, and use that to reach out a hand to barbarians rather than take their lands and condemn others to be pariahs. We are going to make a better captain, a better Templar, a symbol for what good could be in the world of Symbaroum. We know we need a Templar, we know we need a fighter, we know we need a leader who can stand for everyone and unite motley crews of adventurers to save the world. Our race is Ambrian human. Our boons, we have contacts for free, and heirloom, the gift of our shield, an experimental tool from the Ordo Magica, given to one who could truly wield it with honor. And our burden is, of course, a code of honor. We cannot back down. We will always defend our friends, even to our detriment. Our abilities will include the suite required to become a Templar. That means Iron Fist, Man at Arms, and Theurgy, and we are taking the mystical power of Holy Aura to master level, taking on 2 permanent corruption. This is going to mean, however, that when we activate our Holy Aura, not only will everyone see us, the enemies will be drawn to us, our friends will follow our lead, but we will maintain sustained area of effect damage versus corrupted creatures and sustained heals for ourselves and our party. This combined will give us access to the Armored Mystic ability at master level 60 XP. This means we ignore the impeding value on our resolute rolls, and we get a bonus 1d4 armor on top of our heavy armor. We are, of course, picking up Shield Fighter at Adept for 30 XP. That means we get a little damage boost, we get a little defense boost, and we reliably get a free shield bash on our turn. We will pick up Steel Throw for a small damage boost when we throw our shield. That's going to have to be special. And finally, we are going to take the Ritualist ability for something very important, Anoint. This ritual means we coat ourselves in holy oil before a fight because we are going all in. If we cannot win, we will die. Damage boost, armor boost, no heals for us. On to our attributes for Stivus Royagai, Captain Ambria, Accurate 10, Cunning 8, Discreet 5, Persuasive 11, Quick 11, Resolute 14, Strong 15, Vigilant 6. Toughness 15, Pain Threshold is at a 7, Corruption Threshold is at a 7, with 2 permanent corruption. Our goal is to be a shield for what is right in this broken world, and our shadow is glowing platinum pierced by black bolts. Our equipment is going to be exceptionally nice, but I think this is appropriate, given our standing in the Queen's army. We have Templar full plate, it is hallowed, our defense is 10, the impeding is 4, doesn't apply to our resolute checks. We are going to reduce 1d10 damage, plus a bonus d4 from Armored Mystic, plus a bonus d4 from being anointed, and because of the screening quality of our shield, we are going to be immune from ranged attacks from our front, as well as guarding our allies from the same when they are next to us. Let's get to that shield. It is returning, it is screening, it is balanced. And that's not the only thing we have. We are also going to carry into battle the Thundering Hammer Mjolnir from our barbarian brother in arms. Our attribute is Strong to hit, target 15. Damage 1d8 plus 1d8 thunder plus 1d4 from the Holy Anointing. Shield bash 1d6 plus 1d4. We can't do fancy tricks and break through armor, but we can keep pummeling you down on the ground until you relent. Because Cap never will. He will always fight against the corruption of this world, even if he is the last one standing. And I think that makes him a bright hero in a dark world. And now it's time to look at our tier list. At the bottom of 10 that I made today, we have Roy Mustang with a respectable high B. I was not setting out to make optimized builds with everyone in S or A, and I'm just being honest at where the abilities landed. His mechanics are an 8.4. His fantasy, I feel, is an 8. It's a bit of a tough sell. His lore, I think, is a 9. I think it's up there. He is keeping a rather low profile for being up in the ranks, and his fun, I think, is also an 8. Symbolism can do a lot, but it does take a little more bookkeeping. Our final score is 8.38. And now we meet the bulk of our characters today who are going to be in A tier. We start with Geralt, kind of a showcase that having everything on your kit doesn't lead to the best results. However, he is still a 9 on his fantasy. His fun factor is a 9. He's held back a bit in the lore as a powerful but pariah monster hunter. Magica did pretty alright for a villainous duck with a high mechanical score, a fantasy of a 9. I think a lot of people could enjoy playing this and have a ton of fun playing it. But again, the lore is really going to look down on you. The only reason she's not a 6 is because I actually think we made her powerful enough and scary enough that somebody would have to take her pretty seriously. A tier. And I actually wound up with a 3-way tie with the final score of 8.58. So I'm giving the edge here to Yuck, the Whipper. Decent mechanics, good fantasy, fitting in the lore, and very fun. His extra killing potential in a one-on-one fight is what gave him the edge over Magica. But while she doesn't have the same kill potential, I just love the well-roundedness and team playability of Mira without her being too overloaded. Her fantasy is an 8. I know that some people aren't going to like that I put the K-pop singer on here, but then again, an equal amount of you are going to love it and might pick up this game because of it. The fun is a 9. The lore is a 10. Furiosa had a kind of low mechanical score, being held back by quick growth, which I decided was thematically appropriate, even if it wasn't strong. However, I truly think this earns 10s across the board. This is a very well-rounded character. She makes perfect sense in the world and would be a folk hero to barbarians, and I think she would be a blast to play. And with straight 9s across the board for flavor and a solid mechanical score, we have Sephiroth. Now, the Final Fantasy fans out there might think that this is a little low, that Sephiroth should be easy S tier, but I think this is a result of me kind of really trying to take the character and put them in Symbaroum and have them make sense there, rather than just recreating the character as they are. I might try that approach later on and see if it yields a different result, but for now, I'm happy with where Sephiroth landed. But closing out A tier with an almost S tier pick, so close to the 8.8 I was looking for based on the spread from the 50 classes video, we have Mr. Wick. Now, his mechanics are pretty darn high. I think his fantasy is spot on within the lore. He is a shadowy figure. I think his fun is pulled down because we have so much going into just the one trick ranged attack and his whole just brooding vibe. I think a lot of people would like playing that. It's still an 8. It's not a 7. It's not a 6, but it's not a 9 or a 10. And in S tier, it's our boy Himbo. Proof that you don't need fancy tricks to have a good time. Now, is he going to be respected in the world? No, not at all. That's why he's a 6 in lore. As far as the fantasy goes, it's, he's just kind of an average ogre soldier, but an average ogre soldier in Symbaroum with the extra little personality that we've imbued on him, I think would be a 10 out of 10 for fun. But at the top of the pack, you can't keep a Templar down. Look at that. 3 S tier abilities, a 10 in lore. Now, the 9 in fun and fantasy is because if you couldn't tell from the way I was reading it, this is a much more serious character than some of the others. And while I really like playing a serious character, I like having that moral conflict and questioning what is right and wrong. Other people aren't as into it, but still incredibly strong, still top. Stevis Royagai, Captain Ambria. And this is where our standings lie currently, with 60 builds. And I still have at least 15 more to go, and boy, am I looking forward to it. Until the next 10 Simba Dudes video, you have been an S tier listener. Have a nat one day. Bye bye.